Okay, so we will be looking at Seaborn. The thing is, Seaborn is kind of built on top of Matplotlib, and you use it alongside Matplotlib, but it makes a lot of visualizations a lot simpler for us. With that being said, mostly you guys will be using these concepts when you do your projects. And there is no restriction on you whatsoever to use a particular library. We don't care if you use Pandas or Matplotlib or Seaborn, but it's important that you're familiar with all of these though. So we're going to work with the same data set that we were looking at in tutorial number 3. You have the economy of US data set. You have several columns starting from year, ending at inflation change. Inflation change is the only kind of string column. In total, we have 48 rows in our data set. All right, let's see. Okay, first we're going to look at simple line and scatter plots. For Seaborn, this is the only command that I have added. So SNS is short for Seaborn. When you import it as import as Seaborn as SNS. Anyway, so SNS dot line plot, then you always pass the data frame in a parameter, that is the argument here is data. Then there is the value of x and the value of y. When you add these, you have to make sure that those values are present inside your data as well, which is expected in the form of a data frame. Then you add a title. This I have done using matplotlib, and I've used the matplotlib command plt.show. It actually runs just fine without this as well. But the thing is, if you're calling this across multiple function calls, you would want to have show right there. Otherwise, it will print it once the entire function is done running instead of printing it exactly where it appears in code. Okay. So this is our first example. In Matplotlib, we looked at how you can change the colors and change the markers that you are using, and you can do the same thing over here as well. All the parameters go within this function. So now I have sns.scatterplot instead of line plot, and everything else remains the same, but I have marker equals and I've specified steric. That's exactly what it's going to use. Similarly, I can specify the color over here as well. I think I've added that example already. So for instance, color is specified as R. I'm not familiar with all the color codes that are used, but you guys can obviously look that up in the documentation. I know we have R, Y, and I think we definitely have B and G as well, but beyond that, please look it up as needed. Okay, and I can do the same thing. See, now I have the same parameter in a line plot, and I can modify this and add scatter plot, and I can add a marker as well. And suppose my marker is the plus sign now, and this will work just as well. Okay, we've already looked at this. Moving on towards color maps. I'm trying to keep the pace faster with this content because I really want us to focus on regex today. So you're going to create a scatter plot, and you have the scatter plot command for it. Everything else remains the same, x and y, and then data equals, you've specified your data frame, but then q equals inflation. And I think the same thing was in pandas as well as in matplotlib, but you just had color, or I think C, and that you specified as the axis which you want to represent the color. And then you have the palette, which you have, I think Dr. Mubin showed this across matplotlib as well. You have several of these available, such as we looked at two very interesting examples, Viridis, and I do not remember the other one. Feel free to experiment with this. Look it up, see what works for you. I generally go with this one. Generally, it suffices. Okay. And the interesting thing that you would notice over here is matplotlib would not add this key over here by default. You would have to add it separately as a legend. However, on the other hand, Seaborn does this for you automatically. It labels all the axes automatically, and it adds a key automatically. So it kind of saves you several lines of code because of just that. And I think this kind of key across several values is better than an entire spectrum over here in some cases as well, such as cases where your values are limited, like this one. Okay. Moving on towards histogram. Histograms, just like you have line plot, scatter plot, you have hist plot, inside which only you give a series for which you want to create the histogram. And there you have your visualizations. Visualization. You can specify bins as well. That can go as an additional argument. You may or may not specify this. Next, we have box plots. For this, your command is sns.boxplot, and you have to specify what goes on the y-axis, and then you're just passing your data frame in data. I think you can do exactly the same thing over here as well. If I'm not wrong, you should be able to do y equals GDP growth as well, and data equals df. To rule it out, let's try it out. I think that works as well. So this is a horizontal histogram which I accidentally made. So I should have dropped this for the x-axis, and then it's giving me my desired result. Just like that, you have horizontal bar graphs as well. Anyway, let's look at the box plot. So this is what a simple box plot using SNS looks like. You have the box plot command, you specify the y-axis, and then you just pass your data frame as the data. I can just as well replace this with x, and this is what my grid would look like then. And lastly, you have the option of creating multiple plots on a single grid using Seaborn as well. So suppose I want to observe the trend of GDP growth, inflation, and unemployment over the years on a single line graph, because I want to be able to not just look at the time series data for each individual column, but I also want to be able to compare how they have changed over time. I want to see if there's any relationship between the three. And again, the cool thing about Seaborn is I did not specify a key, but I have it right over here. Similarly, we already have an X label and we already have a Y label. I don't think we need to specify this. I'm going to get rid of it. You can specify it if you want to change it. Otherwise, it just sets it to the name of your column in your data frame. So if I want to change it, that will pretty much work that way. And then you have your simple matplotlib commands, grid, legend. I don't think we need to specify legend here either. We just need to specify grid because that was not made automatically. With that, we are done with data visualizations. Are there any questions before we move on? Okay, let's move on towards some string problems then. Okay, we're going to look at regular expressions and some other string operations. So let's get started. This is a new library that I'm importing. You guys must have seen this in class as well. Excuse me. Yeah, you must have seen this in class as well. Today, let's try and practice with this. I'm going to try and give a pause of a few seconds between questions so that you guys have the opportunity to at least write down and try it out on your own as well. The thing about regular expressions is they're very hard to decipher when written by someone else, but much easier to understand when you're creating or formulating your own regular expression. Okay, anyway, let's start with some basic string operations. This is the data that I have. I don't have a data frame, I have a series, and then I have several names, but there is a problem with the names. There are random capital letters in between, there are random leading spaces, trailing spaces, and we are going to get rid of all of that. So let's see. Remove any leading or trailing spaces. I'm going to show this to you guys with respect to one particular string, the hello world string. So you have one operation, strip. What it does is it gets rid of spaces in your string. Not all spaces, just the spaces at the beginning and at the end. So this will essentially remain where it is no matter how big I make it. So this is what it has returned to me. A string, but just the leading and the trailing spaces have been removed. So now we know what strip does for us. Similarly, I have the split operation as well. I'm actually going to cover that along with the next example. And then you also have the lowercase method. That's pretty simple actually. It's not even a pandas function, it's a simple string function, dot lower. And since I actually already had everything in lowercase, so I'm going to just modify one thing in between to show you that this does actually work. Similarly, you have upper as well. And similarly, you have title case. Title case is such that for each word, the first letter is capitalized only. Now let's see how we are going to do this for our given data. First, we are required to remove any leading or trailing spaces. So str dot strip, but just dot strip is not going to work over here. This is what we need to do, dot str, because I hope you guys remember whenever you're applying any string operations to a series, or to a data frame in fact, but you always actually select a column, so it is a series anyway. You have to specify dot str because by default the type is always object, it is not string. You need to convert it to a string first, and then str gives you so many functions. So dot str dot strip, when I run it just like that, you'll see that the leading and trailing spaces have been removed automatically. Okay, so that was the first thing. Now this has returned to me what? A series again. Next, I have to convert all the names to lowercase. So I'm going to write dot lower, but I don't think that that will work. Can someone tell me why that fails? I can go to the error if that helps. Series object has no attribute lower. Can anyone tell me why this fails? Okay, I'm going to add it over here. So again, this returned to us a series. So before you apply the next string operation, you have to convert it to string again. And that should work. Now everything's in lower cases. Now I can convert all the names to title case, for which we have the command dot title. Oh, again, you have to specify str. Now let's see if I got rid of this part, would that still work? Technically, yeah, it would still work because that's how title works. It automatically first it will convert all the letters to lowercase and then it will grab the first letter and convert it to uppercase. Okay, with that, let's move on to the next part. So we're going to try and extract information. This is using regex. I'm going to quickly move on because first I want to show you the split operation as well. I have another series of dates. This is what it looks like. Suppose I want to extract the year from the given date. Now I'm going to add another string over here, actually the same string. No need to have spaces anymore. Hello world. And this is what I will do. X dot split. And split takes one argument, and that is a character. So when I've added when I've added a comma, that is what it will split my string on the basis of. So essentially what it does is it starts creating a new string. When it encounters the character that I've specified over here, it stops, then starts creating a new string, and in fact, it returns to you an entire list of strings. See, so I have obtained a list. The first index of my list contains hello, the second index of my list contains world. With that, it's important to notice that none of these two contain a comma. That is automatically gotten rid of. Okay, so in a list, if I want to select the second index, I can very easily specify one and that does the job. That is how I have extracted the second word out of my two-word sentence. Now, if I were to change this and add something else over here, I'm going to get a list, but the length of my list will be 3 as opposed to 2 now. Hence, this is what I have obtained. If I specify -1, I will automatically be able to retrieve the last word. With that, let's try and extract the year from the given dates. So all the dates are written in such a form. This is supposed to be 12. I think we messed up here. Okay. So they're written in such a format that you're given the day, then slash the month, then slash the year. So we just need to split on the basis of a slash. So let's do that. Dates dot, of course, you always have to specify str, and then you split on the basis of this, and let's see what it gives you. This is what it gives you. And it is a list. Now, the thing is, I cannot directly select the year from here. So let's see, for that first, what will I need to do? I will need to write str, and let's see if -1 works for us. And that works. I had to specify str again because I wanted to convert the type. And then it went to the last index, and I know at the last index I have exactly the year available. Let me show you one more thing that we can do with this. Now I'm going to convert this to a data frame instead. So suppose this is what my data frame looks like. When you're working with the data frame, you're going to have to specify the column name that you want to perform a given operation on. So it pretty much works the same. Now suppose I want to store it in a new column. This is how I would do that. Here equals, and it's as simple as that. Now if I write dates, this is how that would work. Essentially, you can do the same for month as well. I just know that's always going to be at the first index. Now I've extracted the month as well. Just as well, I can do the same with the day, and this is what I have obtained. Yes, please go ahead.
जब आप ये स्प्लिट फंक्शन लगाते हो मल्टीपल डेट से तो ये मल्टीपल लिस्ट निकाल के देता है हर डेट के लिए जो जब आप स्प्लिट
Yes,
फंक्शन अप्लाई
basically whenever you call it, तो ये आपको एक लिस्ट ही रिटर्न करता है. And since I knew कि मेरी list के last index पे I have the year, so I just specified -1, but you can specify 2 as well.
मैं कंफ्यूज इसलिए हो रहा था कि मल्टीपल लिस्ट आउटपुट नहीं करेगा तो आप डायरेक्टली हर लिस्ट की आखिरी एलिमेंट को कैसे एक इंडेक्स से कॉल करेंगे अगर वो 2D लिस्ट नहीं बन गई
अच्छा,
क्योंकि
when you
काफी सारे
specify
डेटा
str, तो फिर it's going to access each index at a time and then you can extract it. Let me show you something else that we have available in the function as well. This is what we were doing, and then you have expand equals true. And I think that should also answer your question. Then you can just rename the columns. जब आप expand equals true करते हैं तो it's automatically going to store them all separately. Then you don't have to specify anything else.
ओह अच्छा
Yes, and then you can
ठीक
just write like dates dot rename columns equals, and then फिर आप अपने columns के names डाल के भी rename कर सकते हैं. But if I wanted to extract just the year, तो फिर I think जो पिछली approach थी, it's more appropriate.
अच्छा मेरा बस सवाल ये था कि जब आप स्प्लिट फंक्शन लगाते हैं वो पूरे जो काफी वो मल्टीपल लिस्ट आती हैं और क्या वो 2D लिस्ट आउटपुट आती है जो आप एक्सपेंड टू किए बगैर सादा बस स्प्लिट फंक्शन अप्लाई करती हैं आप
No, no, 1D list. 1D list at each index. Look. See, आपके पास हर index के ऊपर एक 1D list है.
अच्छा और फिर जब आप -1 लिखती हैं तो फिर ये हर लिस्ट का आखिरी इंडेक्स को पकड़ता है
Yes, yes, precisely.
अच्छा ठीक
Okay,
थैंक
is
यू
there anything else before we move on? Acha, to whoever asked if you guys are expected to know the exact Seaborn syntax for your exam, No, you are not. If we are going to test exact syntax, we are going to give you a reference sheet that is essentially, we're not going to test the exact syntax for these operations. If we're going to ask you to write commands, तो आपको syntax हम provide करेंगे. You should be more concerned with what visualization is needed when. What would be a bad visualization? What would be the most appropriate visualization? So just try and focus on that instead. Okay, let's move on. So there are some regex challenges over here. I'm going to start with the simpler one. This essentially I want you people to try out on your own. I will add a solution for this. Like in for now, I want us to move on. See, I was supposed to move this to the end. Okay. So you are analyzing. Oh, hold on. I think we skipped a question. Yeah. Thought so. So you're going to extract information using regex. We haven't done that yet. Suppose this is the series that I have right now. Okay, emails. And then you have an entire string at each index, and then the string contains at some point an email address. Suppose we are required to extract the email address only, and we should be able to do that using regex. So let's see, I'm going to develop an expression for this first. Let's suppose expression equals, you always specify r, then commas, and then whatever your expression is, write it down inside these brackets. Otherwise, you will probably encounter an error. Now let's think about our expression. So you can have anything at the beginning. I don't think we have characters, but you can have any digits or you can have any characters at the beginning, but you have to have something. It cannot be empty. This is how you will specify for it for regex. So capital A till capital Z means any character that is uppercase. I can simply write in front of it small a till small z, and that means any lowercase letter. And I can specify 0 till 9, meaning any digit. So it means, so आपका सिर्फ ये जो square brackets के अंदर expression है, this means that you can have any uppercase digit, lowercase digit, or letter. And I have placed it inside square brackets. Ahead of my square brackets, I'm going to add, well, either you can choose a plus sign or an asterisk sign, but only one of those two works over here. Can someone tell me which? Like आप प्लस ऐड कर सकते हैं या आप asterisk ऐड कर सकते हैं. For our case, only one should work. Okay, so you're going to add a plus sign. The reason for that being you don't want कि इस side पे कोई भी character ना हो, then that's just invalid. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Next, of course, you're going to have an at the rate symbol. So we can specify that directly. After that, you can have, I think, again, you can have any number of digits or characters followed by a dot, followed by com, org, or any, I think, 2 to 3 characters. So let's see how we're going to do that again. Capital A till capital Z, then lowercase letters, then all digits, and then there can be several dots in between as well. Let me give you an example. plums.edu.pk. So there can be several dots in between as well. Okay, let's see. You cannot directly specify a dot like that. You have to use an escape character. So I'm adding a slash and a dot. And you can have this any number of times, but at least once. So you're definitely going to add a plus sign over here. And then you can have, I think, any lowercase characters only. And you should have, I think, at least 2 to 3 characters, right? I'm not sure if there's a limit to this. If it has to be exactly 3 characters, you can write down 3. If you're given a restriction that it has to be 2 or 3 characters, you can write it down that way. If you're given that it has to be at least 2 characters, you can just leave the other part of this open. And it says greater than or equal to 2. Okay, now that we have specified this expression, let's see how it works. I have already imported RE. in an above cell, like I showed you guys. So emails dot, and there are several functions that are compatible with regex. All of these are string operations actually. You are going to use the extract function. Of course, you have to specify str.extract, no matter what function it is. Then you specify your expression, and I think that should be about good enough. Let's see what this gives us. This is what we have obtained. And I think this is exactly what we meant to obtain as well. For the last one, you did not get anything because there was nothing matching our pattern. Are there any questions at this point? Yes, please go ahead.
जो बैकस्लैश और डॉट डाला है उसका
Yeah.
मतलब है कि ये डॉट बीच में किसी भी पॉइंट पे आ सकता है
Yep,
मतलब
precisely.
कि
नो नो
अच्छा
एक्चुअली
ठीक है
बैकस्लैश ये नहीं इम्प्लाई कर रहा कि ये किसी भी पॉइंट पे आ सकता है. Backslash dot इसलिए डाला है because when you just add dot, it's a wild card. Anything can be in place
अच्छा
of a dot. So जब आपने वैसे यूज करना होता है डॉट को तो you have to add it with the backslash. लेकिन ये जो पूरा expression है with the plus sign, this essentially tells you that like all these can come in any order as many times as needed. And I think there was another question in the chat box. Why did you use the plus sign? Yeah. So let me quickly tell you the difference. अगर आपके पास एक expression है a b steric, so this is how you're going to map it. It means that a b may appear, or let's suppose I have like c and then a b steric. It means you're going to have c, then a b may or may not appear at all, or it may appear several times like this. On the other hand, if I have a plus sign, then the requirement is plus means it has to appear at least once. Steric means it has to appear at least 0 times, so it starts with 0. That's the only difference, which means this is the minimum possible string that can exist. I hope that answers your question. My reason for specifying a plus sign instead of an asterisk over here is because I want to make sure that at the rate ke baad at least there is one character or something. There has to be something ahead of it. You cannot have at the rate.com. Okay, are there any questions at this point? Shall we move on? Okay, all right.
अगर कोई भी
Yeah, go
अगर
on.
डॉट के अलावा कोई और भी सिंबल इंक्लूड करना होता तो भी बैकस्लैश करके हम ऐड करते हैं
No, I think ये आपको particularly dot के लिए करना पड़ता है.
अच्छा
उसकी वजह ये है कि जिस तरह you have some symbols that are reserved. So you have the plus symbol, you would have to use it this way. You have the dot, you would have to use it this way. Then I hope you remember okay, we also have this or operator, which you have to use with the slash again because it's reserved. फिर slash को भी slash के साथ use करना पड़ेगा because that is also reserved. However, the equal to symbol is not reserved. And what else is not
अगर
reserved?
डॉलर साइन फर्ज करें यूज करना हो अगर डॉलर
अंडरस्कोर इज नॉट रिजर्व्ड. नहीं, डॉलर साइन भी आपका वैसे रिजर्व्ड होता है. वी हैवंट गॉटन टू इट येट, लेकिन डॉलर साइन को आप वैसे नहीं यूज कर सकते. देन यू वुड हैव टू स्पेसिफाई दैट विद द
रिजर्व से
स्लैश
क्या
एज वेल.
मतलब आपका
मतलब उसका कोई और ऑपरेशन है, जैसे प्लस
ओ
साइन इफ
अच्छा
यू यूज इट वैसे ही इट मीन्स के द लेंथ ऑफ द पार्ट दैट इज preceding the plus sign can be one or more. It can be repeated one or more times. Similarly, dot means के dot की जगह कोई भी character हो सकता है. And similarly, this represents the or symbol. So जब आपने इन symbols को directly use करना हो, तो you have to do that.
अच्छा
I
मतलब कि
hope
इनको
that
एज टेक्स्ट
clarifies.
एक्सप्रेशन में यूज करना हो तो तब बैकस्लैश डालना पड़ता है
Come again.
मतलब कि जब इन रिजर्व सिंबल्स को एज टेक्स्ट यूज करना है तब ये बैकस्लैश यूज करना है
Absolutely, exactly. And on that note, let me also indicate कि ये जो dollar symbol होता है, this denotes the end of a line. or like the beginning of a new line. That is why it is a reserved symbol as well. वैसे there are so many more symbols to explore in regex, but we're only going to test those which have been covered in the lecture slides. Even now, I'm not going to cover anything extra in those terms. Okay, is there anything else before we move on? Okay, all right, let's move on then. Yeah, so this is our next question. You are analyzing Twitter data. You're required to extract all the hashtags. So, like hashtag followed by anything, for instance, this thing right over here. And you are required to extract all the mentions. These are two separate problems, by the way. We don't have to do these two together. You can have two different commands for this. So, अभी हम एक assumption ले लेते हैं कि hashtag something is going to appear only once and at the rate something is also only going to appear once. So that means you can use str.extract. I'm going to just pause over here and give you guys 20 to 30 seconds to try and write something down on your own. Okay, I think that should be enough. Would someone like to volunteer a solution or should I just go on? Okay, I think I'm going to continue. So for now, I am reverting what I removed and I'm going to write down tweets dot str dot extract. We need an expression. You can specify the expression within here as well. I'm going to just specify it separately. Hashtag expression is, then you specify whatever you want inside simple parenthesis. And I know that my expression has to start from the character hash, after which I can have any number of characters or digits. I cannot have spaces though, because as soon as you get a space, the hashtag has ended and you've moved on to something different. You can also have other different kinds of characters as well, but let's start simple. All uppercase letters, all lowercase letters, all digits, and then I'm adding a plus sign because you have to have at least one character, right? And then you can add some special symbols if you want as well. You don't generally have an equal to, but suppose you can have an underscore. What else can you have? You can have an exclamation mark, for instance. Okay, and for now, that's all that's coming to my mind. If you want, you can add more characters here as well. So I'm going to specify this and let's see what it gives us. So this is the result that I have obtained. See, the thing is, it missed this word, hashtag happy. It missed, okay, that's the only word that it missed. Can someone tell me why this happened? Okay, इसके लिए it's very important to understand how extract essentially works. What it does is it starts parsing through your string. It stops where it finds the first instance of your regular expression, उसमें जो भी fit हो रहा है, and then it returns that. It stops parsing afterwards. As opposed to that, if you want to find all the expressions that are matching your regular expression, all the substrings that are matching your regular expressions, so we cannot use extract for that. We have another operation, find all, for that purpose. And that's what find all returns. Now you get lists, and उस list के अंदर it puts everything that matches your expression. Okay, we can do the same thing for all mentions as well. So let's see. I think you're just simply going to replace this with at the rate, and then you should be good to go. I don't think this should have an exclamation mark though. You don't usually have those in usernames. Oh, I forgot to call this over here. And that is what it gives us. Are there any questions at this point? Yes, go on.
ये प्लीज एक्सप्लेन कर सकती हैं जो बाद में आपने खाली प्लस डाला वो क्या सिग्निफाई कर रहा है क्योंकि उसके आगे कुछ भी नहीं आ
Right over here.
रहा जी
I see. So प्लस आप डालते हैं एक गिवन एक्सप्रेशन के बाद. So ये प्लस है for this highlighted expression. It tells you that this highlighted expression, which means any character, uppercase, lowercase, any digit, or the special characters underscore and exclamation mark, they have to, one of these has to come at least once. और ये once या more आ सकते हैं आपके expression में. That's what the plus is symbolizing. And plus हमेशा उस expression के बाद आता है.
एस्टेरिक भी यही नहीं करता था कि वो
ओके, स्टेरिक भी यही करता है, बट स्टेरिक और इसमें डिफरेंस ये है कि even if I mention like an empty hashtag over here, Hysteric will still extract that because hysteric की requirement है कि 0 or more times the expression should appear. But when I write plus, तो it enforces कि at least once वो expression appear होना चाहिए. And
ठीक
that is why we do that. Yes, Anam,
ठीक
go
है
on.
थैंक यू
You're welcome.
हमारे एक्सप्रेशन में कहीं अंडरस्कोर नहीं है तो फिर व्हाई डिड वी यूज अंडरस्कोर?
It just occurred to me कि आप कोई ऐसा hashtag लिख सकते हैं जिसमें underscore हो. It's not limited to this. So I'm just telling you guys कि आपने कोई अगर special character include करना हो तो आप उसको भी साथ इस तरह specify कर सकते हैं. But you're right, for our expression it will work anyway. So this was just me thinking कि एक hashtag में exclamation mark भी आ सकता है, underscore भी आ सकता है.
अच्छा, अगर मल्टीपल हो तो मल्टीपल बैकस्लैश करके हम ऐड करेंगे?
नो नो, अभी ये देखिए, ये आपके पास मल्टीपल थे, अंडरस्कोर भी है एंड एक्सक्लेमेशन मार्क भी है, एंड आई जस्ट एडेड देम टुगेदर. आपको स्लैश बैकस्लैश डाल के कैरेक्टर तब डालना पड़ता है जब वो स्पेशल कैरेक्टर रिजर्व्ड हो फॉर सम अदर पर्पस, सच एज दिस प्लस साइन. अगर मैंने प्लस डालना होता तो आई कुडंट ऐड इट डायरेक्टली. देन आई वुड हैव टू लाइक मेक श्योर कि मैं बैकस्लैश के साथ प्लस डालूं.
ओके ओके।
ओके गाइज, एनीथिंग एल्स? Okay, let's move on then. So I have another interesting question. You have web server logs. This is what it looks like. You have to extract all the IP addresses and you have to extract the dates from each log entry. And these are two separate problems, by the way. I'm gonna change this to a data frame right now because एक काम करते हैं, इसको हम कहीं पे store करके देख लेते हैं. So I want you guys to think about it. Take a few seconds. Then, of course, I will add the solution. So use इसमें essentially str extract ही होगा. So guys, I would really recommend कि आप solution share करें या ना करें. Just have a solution written down in front of you. It's going to go a long way. I'm going to wait about 20 seconds more on this, then I'll write the solutions down. Okay, guys, that will be enough. I'm still going to ask, would someone like to present me with a solution? Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and add one over here. Okay, acha niche aa gaye hain code cells. So first, let's try and extract the IP addresses. Then let's try and extract the dates. So आपके IP address का generally format ये है, you can have some number of digits, then a dot, then some number of digits, then a dot. Since we're given no restriction whatsoever about the number of digits, वैसे generally it has to be between 1 and 3 digits. So I'm going to show you guys either way. And then you're going to have another dot, and that's it. So this is what we're looking for. Let's try to create a regular expression for this. So again, I'm starting with parentheses. We're going to have digits 0 till 9. And let's suppose I'm specifying that you have to have between 1 and 3 digits. So that is how you do that. Okay, generally this is something that I'm telling you. I know it's not given in the question. कि ये जो digits हैं ये 1 से 3 के बीच में ही होते हैं. It cannot be like 0 digits. There has to be something and they do not exceed 3 digits generally. Okay. After that you're going to have a dot. But the question is, can I write a dot just like that? Can someone answer that for me?
आपको बैकस्लैश यूज करनी है कोई रिजर्व्ड
Yes, मुझे backslash use करना होगा because dot is one of those reserved characters. The purpose of dot is generally you can place anything in place of a dot, but we want ki dot he I afterwards. Similarly, again, you have the same thing. You have to have between 1 and 3 characters. Again, you have a dot. I'm going to write it down with a backslash. And you have these characters again. Let me see if I've, no, I haven't covered all of them. There's one last one left. So 0 till 9 between 1 and 3 characters, and I think that that should work. Why don't I leave this for you in the comments? Okay, now let's call this expression logs. Since it's a data frame, I have to specify कि मैं किस row के ऊपर call कर रही हूँ. Now it's called on a series. So dot str dot. Now I'm gonna use the extract function because I want to extract the first occurrence of it. I know कि ये logs एक certain format में है, and you're only going to have a single IP address in each. So anyway, dot .str dot .extract, you specify your expression, and all right, that's all that you do. Let's see if that works. And that works just fine. So suppose I want to store this somewhere, and that is how I will do that. Now, if you view logs again, this is what it looks like. Are there any questions at this point?
आपने बैकस्लैश डॉट को भी स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट्स में क्लोज क्यों नहीं किया वो जो बीच में आ रहे हैं
Oh, because आपने square brackets में वो वाली चीज लिखी है जिसमें इतने number of times repeat होना है. between 1 and 3 times, once, twice, or thrice. And dot ne in any case आना ही आना है in between. So that's not included. I hope that makes sense.
अच्छा, यानी कि स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट से क्लोज करना ज़रूरी नहीं होता टेक्स्ट
Yeah,
को।
नहीं होता. Generally we use that when you're specifying एक बड़ा expression, like एक range है 0 till 9 या A till Z lowercase या A till Z uppercase, something like that. Just like we did for um emails, I think. Let me just see. So this was in square brackets with a plus sign, and then there was just randomly ये बीच में था at the rate, and उसके बाद again square brackets में expression था. So pretty much works the same way. I hope that
ठीक है,
answers
समझा।
your
थैंक
question.
यू।
Okay, perfect. So similarly, you have to extract the date. अब date का एक certain format है and यही format चल रहा है. So essentially, this is how the format works. You have the day start में, and you know कि जो आपने day pick करना है, it has to be like a two-digit character, right? Since इधर वाली example से we know कि ये 0 1 है, so it's in a two-digit format. So I'm going to specify this over here. Two-digit format. फिर उसके बाद you have a slash, and then you have a month, and the month is in a three-character format. So we're going to specify that as well. Month in a three-character format. And then you have a slash again, and then you have year. And year is in a four-digit format. अब इससे ज्यादा हम उन्हें वैलिडेट नहीं कर रहे कि उसने जो थ्री कैरेक्टर्स दिए हैं वो वैलिड दिए हैं या नहीं दिए, या जो फोर डिजिट का ईयर दिया है वी डोंट केयर इफ इट्स 9999 बिकॉज वी आर नॉट वैलिडेटिंग इट राइट नाउ. वी आर जस्ट चेकिंग टू सी के इस फॉर्मेट में क्या चीज मिल रही है हमें. सो लेट्स डू दैट. Again, you're going to do the same thing. Logs, then you're going to specify the name of the column .str .extract, and oh, forgot to form an expression. Date expression, let's start with that. Regular expression, simple parenthesis, and then I know कि सबसे पहले तो I have two digits, so 0 till 9, exactly two of these characters. Then you have a slash. Forward slash is not reserved, so आप इसको directly लिख सकते हैं. Then you have three characters. I'm going to specify it like this because they can be uppercase or lowercase, either of them. And you have to have exactly three of these as well. Then you have another slash, and then you have exactly four digits. I can go another step and I can say कि month का first character always has to be capital. And then there's a very simple way for me to do this. Just like that. And then iske aage I can write 2. This means that it has to pick the first letter as capital, and uske baad it has to pick two small letters. Okay, and now let's specify our expression, see if it gives us our desired result. Oh, this is supposed to be a comment. Of course. All right. So it's giving us what we needed. So I'm going to store this somewhere. Okay. And this is what we have. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, great. Let's move on. Next, you are required to identify suspicious activity. And let me tell you how we're going to do that. You need to find the log entries where the response code is 500 because 500 represents a server error. So let me show you कि ये आ कहाँ पे रहा है exactly. So I'm just gonna grab one of them. See, this is what it looks like. ये end पे आपके पास हमेशा response code है, which means you technically just have to extract whatever number you have at the end. Again, I'm going to give you guys a few seconds, 20 to 30 seconds to process this. See if you can come up with something. Like, the point is regex even necessary for this? Okay, I think that that should be enough. Can someone tell me how we should approach this? Okay, all right. Anyway, I'm going to continue with this then. So, logs, and then you have to select logs, and then, of course, .str, .extract, and you don't need a regular expression anymore. Hold on, then we don't need to use extract. Let's try split instead. I'm going to split on the basis of a space. I don't care कि पीछे list की क्या length है. I know that I have to just pick whatever is at the last index. And like I showed it to you guys, we can do that using -1. You have to specify .str because again, otherwise it interprets it as an entire series, so you can't do that. Okay, and let's see if this gives me all the codes. There, now I have all the codes. So I can just check कि ये code 500 कहाँ पे है. I know that this is a string. I know it's not a number. But to show you guys, since I tried this out, see, I know that it's a string. What does this give me? This gives me a Boolean series, and at this point, you should know what we do with a Boolean series. You pass it to your data frame, and then you your data frame या आपकी series या जो भी है, and then you automatically obtain all the rows for which this is true. All right, and now I know okay, this was the only entry, the only log that represented some suspicious activity. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, all right. I'm going to leave this for you guys to try out on your own as well. It's one of those simpler problems. I think Shahid we did something similar in class as well. You're going to write down a regex pattern that matches words containing an even number of vowels. I'm going to move back though. There was one other important operation that we had to do. Okay. Yep, precisely this one. So first you were required to extract all the email addresses and we did that right over here. But now you're also required to replace all domain names, for instance, @gmail.com with @example.com. So I'm going to introduce one last important function. Up until now, we looked at strip, we looked at split, we looked at extract, and we looked at find all. Now we're going to look at replace. This is something you should be familiar with as well. So let's see, emails. I think ये series है. Yeah, this is a series. .str. So see, I don't need to refer to any column. Then it is just one column. .str dot replace, and replace के अंदर your first argument is your expression. So let's see. First, we need to form an expression, regular expression. And why will our previous expression not work? Because ये सिर्फ domain name नहीं extract कर रहा. It is extracting the entire email address. Now we want to extract just this part of it, or just the part that follows the @symbol. Let's see how we can do that. Let's see how we can modify this. So अब जो हमारा expression है, essentially it should simply start with @, and I think that makes it very simple because @, के बाद I can just copy what I had over here. I know that works. We've tried it out. See, so in replace, you're going to pass this expression, and you are going to, after this, you're going to pass कि आपने replace करना किस चीज से है. That's also important. So this is what I want to replace it with, @example.com. And okay, that's not how that works, because I think we're just missing one last thing. You have to set regex to true for this particular expression. This is one parameter. The thing is this does not, you do not need this for extract. You do not need it for find all, but you need it for the replace operation. Because uski reason ye hai कि in replace operation I could just as well have written at, and I could have written कि at को replace करना है इससे. And in that case, like regex would not need to be true. So that's one of the simpler string operations. इसीलिए when I'm giving it a regular expression, I have to specify that it's a regular expression. And now we've been able to achieve precisely this. Are there any questions at this point? All right, since there are no questions, let's move on. And there is one last practice problem that I added over here for this exact data frame. So अब what we want to do is we want to clean this particular column of inflation change. You're required to write a function that cleans the inflation change column. We're not going to get overwhelmed by the statement, and we're going to start one step at a time. Clean inflation change. Yeah, clean column. You could have named it anything. And इसको क्या pass होगा? Essentially the text that you want to clean. Now let's see what we want to do with that text. Replace all missing values with unknown. So that is the first thing. For instance, right over here, I have a null value, I have a missing value. I want to replace this with unknown. So I think we can have a very simple condition for that. If pd.isNA. You've studied the isNA command already. You can use it directly on whatever is passed over here as well. So if text is NA, this is going to return true. In that case, you can return, you want to replace it with unknown. So this was the first step. This was the first thing we needed to do. Next, you have to replace all non-alphabetical characters with empty strings. So let's see, for that we're going to use the replace operation, and we're definitely going to need regex for this as well, because how else will we know कि character जो है it's not an alphabet. So let's see. Let's suppose your expression, or rather let's call it our pattern, equals, it's a regular expression, so that is how we will specify it. And let me show you how you can specify this regular expression. You have uppercase letters, you have lowercase letters, right? And you want to include everything, you're looking for everything that is not an uppercase or a lowercase letter, basically. So uske liye you use this cone, which represents negation. So everything that is not this, that is not inside these brackets. All right, so it will look for anything that is not an alphabet. Now let's use our replace operation. So text dot replace, and then you will have your pattern. I want to replace it with an empty string, so I'm gonna leave it just like that. And then of course you have to specify regex equals true. Next, what are you required to do? You're required to convert the cleaned values to lowercase. So that's pretty simple. Dot lower. And then, of course, return the text, whatever it is that you have. Okay, let's apply this. df. I'm just going to copy this off of here. This is the column name that we want to apply this function to. It's good you guys are going to remember what this operation was as well. Dot apply, and then you just pass what? The name of the function. Let's see if this works. Let's see what the problem is. str dot replace takes no keyword arguments. Let me see what I've done wrong over here. Let me look into this later as well and see if I can make replace work. For now, I think
इधर
the
डॉट str तो नहीं लिखना था, str dot replace.
नहीं, because this is already a string, so we don't need to do that. I can still try it. नहीं, that will not work. Since this is already a string, ये इसको एक string at a time pass कर रहा है. So I think that is specific to when you are converting an entire series to string type objects. Instead, we have another operation for strings. I will tell you guys. वैसे आप इसको separately भी फिर call कर सकते थे. For now, you have the substitute operation as well. Substitute operation doesn't need you to set regex to true. Hold on, let me see what the problem is now. Oh, it's a regular expression function. I see. So re dot substitute, and then you have to see that you're gonna substitute it in the text. So this is what we have obtained. Now I can very simply store whatever I've obtained वापस inflation change के अंदर. There's an alternative way to do this as well. Maybe dot apply के अंदर you can just convert it to lower. You can leave this and then separately you can write df inflation change dot and then you can of course just use जो आपने वैसे replace वाला function देखा है because that will work that way. I don't think it will work on each individual value. Okay, are there any questions at this point?
ये बात दोबारा रिपीट कर देंगे, ये replace क्यों नहीं चला उसमें?
Yes, of course. So, it is my intuition. I would want to double check this as well. अगर कोई change हुआ तो I will add it to the notebook. But my intuition is कि either you're passing it each single string at a time, and it does not work on each string alone. पहले we were passing it an entire series in a string format. So I believe that is the problem. उसका alternate तरीका ये है कि you can get rid of this over here and then over here, you can just like write down the same thing dot str dot replace and then it will work. Then you can specify जो भी आपका pattern था. You can replace it with this and you can specify regex equals true and that will work as well. I hope that makes sense. See, it works as
जी
well.
समझ आ गया.
Okay, are there any other questions at this point? All right, guys, that will be all for today. Then, on that note, before concluding, I will remind you the names of the string operations that we have not covered again in today's session, लेकिन आप लोगों को आने चाहिए. They were covered in class briefly and they were covered reinforced in our last tutorial as well. Do revisit it. str dot begins with, str dot ends with, str dot contains all of these operations. Go through them as well. Okay, all right. On that note, that will be it for